Welcome to the 5th episode of this new series, American West Live. Every other week, we'll share a 10-minute slice of some of the best stories about how the American West came to be and California grew to become the 4th largest economy in the world. It all began in the mid-1800s, following an immigrant migration that began as a trickle, then became a massive movement fueled by desire for land, economic opportunities, and escaping hardships. This week, listen to how the Stephens-Townsend-Murphy Party braved the brutal early winter storms of November and December 1844 and somehow engineered the passage of 5 immigrant wagons up and over Donner Pass. To this day, their achievement is regarded as a masterful feat of courage, ingenuity, and grit. We hope you enjoy Episode 5, Hanging by a Rope, the first wagons the summit.
Today, we're heading way back to November 1844.
Right, to a really critical point for the Stephens-Townsend-Murphy Party.
Exactly. Picture this. They finally reached Truckee Lake.
And they are exhausted. 6 months, nearly 2,000 miles on the trail.
It's incredible. And they were so close. Alta, California, Sutter's Fort, maybe less than 100 miles off.
So close, but then this massive wall in front of them.
The Sierra Nevada summit, just looming there, 1,100 feet above them.
Which was what, roughly the height of the Empire State Building?
Yeah.
A huge climb after everything they'd already been through.
Yeah, a huge climb. And this group, this wasn't just any wagon train. They were standing right on the edge of history.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. 11 wagons. Just consider the ambition there, the sheer scale of trying that.
It's monumental, especially when you think about what they'd already been through. That 30-day slog up the Truckee River. It took a huge toll.
It did, especially on their oxen.
Right. They just didn't have enough healthy animals left to pull all 11 of those wagons over that summit.
Some got lost on the way. Some were tragically killed or maybe stolen. And a lot were just worn down by the river itself, the cold water, the rocks.
It's just relentless condition.
And adding to all that pressure, it was already snowing.
Mm-hmm. With the threat of way more snow looming, a really dangerous situation.
So they were at this absolute crunch point. They had to make an incredibly tough call. Which wagons go forward, try for the summit, and which ones? Which ones get left behind?
And this wasn't just about, logistics. It was survival. Getting the key supplies, maybe the strongest people, over quickly could make all the difference.
Absolutely. So for this deep dive, that's exactly what we want to unpack. We're going to look at who owned these 11 wagons and try to understand the thinking, the practical side, maybe the personal side behind that crucial choice.
Okay. Let's start by just sort of taking inventory. Who owned what?
Let's do it. So the Murphy family was the biggest group, right? They had 3 wagons.
3. One for Martin Murphy Sr. and his 4 adult kids.
Okay.
Then another for his son, Martin Murphy Jr., his wife, Mary, who was very pregnant at this point, and their 4 little kids.
Wow. Okay. And the 3rd Murphy one.
That was for James Murphy, another son, his wife, Anne, who was also pregnant, and their young daughter.
Goodness. 2 pregnant women in the party. That's a lot of family wagons.
Well,
Then there were the Sullivan siblings.
yeah, 4 young adults. They were kind of considered adopted by the Murphys, traveling with them. They shared 1 wagon between the 4 of them.
Got it. 1 wagon for the Sullivans. Who's next?
Dr. John Townsend. He had a wagon for himself, his wife, her brother, and also their servant, a guy named Francis DeLand.
Okay.
And this wagon was apparently loaded. We're talking valuable stuff. Broadcloths, silks, his medical instruments, books, worth several $1,000s back then, which was a fortune.
Wow. Like a mobile treasure chest almost.
Yeah.
Okay. Who else? James Miller.
James Miller, his wife, and their 5 children. And get this, one of those kids was a newborn, Ellen Independence Miller.
Born on the trail. Incredible. What a start to life. They had 1 wagon.
1 wagon. Then Isaac Hitchcock, his daughter, and her 5 children, they had a wagon too.
Another family group.
Mm-hmm. Then William Patrick Martin and his 2 adult sons, 1 wagon for them. And it's worth noting, William Patrick Martin himself was 68 years old.
68. That's definitely something to consider for this kind of journey. Okay, nearly there. Elisha Stephens.
Elisha Stephens, the elected captain of the party, he had a wagon shared with a hired teamster.
Right.
And the records suggest Alan Montgomery and his wife Sarah had their own wagon, probably because they had recently gotten married and set up their own household.
Makes sense. 1 more.
Joseph Foster, he's listed as owning several oxen, so he definitely had at least 1 wagon.
Okay, so that's our 11. Quite a mix of families, individuals, valuable goods.
It really is. Which brings us right back to that core question. How on earth did they decide which 5 wagons would get the available oxen, get the chance to go over?
All right, let's shift to the decision itself. The 5 wagons that actually made it across. What do we know about them?
Well, interestingly, 4 of those 5 belonged to families with young children.
4 out of 5. Okay, who were they?
Martin Murphy Jr., remember? His wife Mary was about to give birth. James Murphy, his wife Anne, was also pregnant. James Miller with the newborn baby. And Isaac Hitchcock with his daughter and 5 grandkids.
Huh. That seems... Well, it seems pretty deliberate, doesn't it?
It really points towards prioritizing the most vulnerable, right? The kids. If they got stuck, delayed getting to Sutter's Fort, those families would need shelter and provisions more than anyone.
Especially Mary Murphy, being so close to term. They'd absolutely need a wagon for her and the baby. It's hard to argue with that logic.
Seems like the clearest part of the decision. But then there's the 5th wagon that went over.
Right, the one belonging to William Patrick Martin. That one feels a bit different.
It does. His 2 sons were adults, presumably capable travelers, so why their wagon?
It makes you wonder, what could be the reason?
Well, one strong possibility is his age. 68. That's quite advanced for such a physically brutal crossing.
Yeah, even without managing a wagon, just walking over that pass in the snow.
Exactly. Maybe they felt he absolutely needed the option of riding, of having that shelter, a sort of a compassionate consideration.
That feels very human.
Yeah.
Could it also be connected to his daughter Anne, James Murphy's wife? You mentioned she was pregnant too.
That's another theory. Maybe his wagon was seen as a kind of backup support for her, even though her husband's wagon was also going.
Maybe his wagon just had something essential, some specific supplies or tools they couldn't leave.
Also possible. Maybe irreplaceable personal items. We don't have a definitive record saying, this is why Martin's wagon went. It remains a bit of a puzzle.
So complex calculations happening there, which leaves 6 wagons that didn't go over the summit initially.
6 left behind. Now, it's almost certain they didn't just abandon everything in them.
No, you'd expect them to consolidate, right?
Yeah.
Take the most important stuff, food, definitely gunpowder, maybe bedding out of those 6 and load it onto the 5 going forward.
Precisely. Maximize what they could carry. Let's circle back to Dr. Townsend's wagon for a second.
The one with all the valuable goods, silks, the instruments.
Yeah, he later claimed losses in the thousands of dollars. That was a significant amount of capital he had tied up in that wagon.
So why leave that one behind? Must have been a painful choice for him.
I think the most likely reason, and what historians generally conclude, boils down to one thing: weight.
All those bolts of cloth, the heavy instruments, the books.
It would have made his wagon exceptionally heavy. Probably just too much for the weakened oxen to manage on that steep, snowy climb.
So a purely practical, albeit harsh calculation. People and essential family supplies over valuable merchandise.
It seems so. It really highlights the brutal realities they were up against. Survival first.
It really does. It puts the whole situation into such sharp focus. Okay, so they make the decision. 5 wagons go forward. Let's talk about that final push, November 25th, 1844.
Right, and there's already several feet of snow on the ground by this point. Conditions are deteriorating.
And then they hit this wall, a near vertical granite face about 10 feet high.
Yeah, imagine seeing that after everything else. Just this final massive obstacle.
What did they even do?
Well, there was no way around it with the wagons. They had to unload everything, completely empty the 5 wagons.
Oh, man.
Unhitch the oxen. And then thankfully, one of the guides, Caleb Greenwood, found this narrow passage, like a crack or chute in the rock that people could scramble through.
So they carried everything by hand.
Carried their belongings through that passage, and then came the wagons.
How did they possibly manage that?
Ropes, chains, probably levers.
Yeah.
And just sheer human effort, pushing, pulling, straining together. Unbelievable determination and strength.
Just muscling those heavy wagons up and over that granite barrier.
Up and over and into Alta California.
Wow.
It was an incredible feat. They didn't just cross the Sierra. They brought wagons over for the very first time. They literally opened the wagon road.
They opened the West in a very real sense. It's just staggering to think about the ingenuity, the teamwork, the raw willpower involved.
Absolutely. A testament to their resilience. They refused to be beaten by that mountain.
So we've seen how they made that critical wagon decision and how they pulled off this incredible crossing. But of course, thinking about those 5 wagons making it, it leaves a pretty big question hanging, doesn't it?
It certainly does. What happened to the other 6 wagons? And, more importantly, the people who had to stay behind with them at the lake.
Right. Because not everyone went over immediately.
No, some had to wait, guard the remaining supplies. And that's a whole other dramatic story.
A story that our sources tell us really centers on one young man in particular, Moses Schallenberger.
His experience staying behind, It's a tale of incredible courage and survival against the odds. Something we definitely need to explore in a future deep dive.
Absolutely. We'll get into that.
But looking back at this moment, November 1844, the decisions made, the effort expended, it just underscores the immense challenges these pioneers faced.
What they were capable of.
Exactly. It wasn't just about moving wagons. It was about pushing boundaries, human endurance, and, fundamentally changing the map of the American West. It makes you think about that drive, that resilience, what pushes people to face the unknown like that.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and invite you to learn more about the Stephens-Townsend-Murphy Party at our websites. We provide links in the show notes. Look for more American West Live deep dives every other week right here, or head over to our website at historyexp.org or YouTube channel at History Expeditions. From all of us at History Expeditions and the Sunnyvale Heritage Park Museum, we look forward to seeing you on the trail.